to transparency and ethics. We have a full agenda. We'll use every minute today. And as you know, our committee is assigned 19 budgets, fee fund budgets that we go through rather quickly so we can get to the full committee. And we're on a tight timeline. So this is the first batch of 6 that needs to go forward. So that's our goal today. And before we get started, Senator Thompson, you have a guest.
Yeah, as a point of personal privilege. Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got my page here today, Samuel Milner. He's from my district. He's an 8th grader over at Maranatha Academy. And so he's going to get to watch us go through the exciting budgeting process and try to stay awake for the next hours.
Exactly, and watch us move fast, too.
Thank you, Madam.
Well, and welcome, Samuel. Next, we have a bill introductions. Do we have any bill introductions today? No? All right. I'm going to recognize Megan Leopold. She is the House Budget Committee and Senate Subcommittee report out procedure person. So she is going to tell us what her duties are here for this committee, if you look at it as a subcommittee of the full budget, and give us our instructions on how we move forward. So thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Megan Leopold with Kansas Legislative Research Department. I'm just going to quickly give you a brief overview of this paper that you have in front of you that says House Budget Committee and Senate Subcommittee Report Out Procedures. The committee today will be making recommendations on each of the budgets you hear. Following the recommendations, the KLRD analysts will put those into a subcommittee report, and we will be emailing those out to the committee. They will either come separately, or if we, hopefully if we can, we try to combine them into one email or a couple of emails just so it's easier for you to manage. You will have an opportunity to look through those reports, and what you're looking for is to make sure that the recommendations that are written down on that subcommittee report match what you feel was approved by the committee. If you have any discrepancies or you feel that there is an error, then please email the KLRD analyst. You have until 5 o'clock the day prior to the report out to email the analyst. And if you choose not to respond at all, that's fine. We take any non-response as an indication that the subcommittee report looks okay to move forward to Senate Ways and Means. Are there any questions about that process?
Megan, I can just ask a question since it's been a year since we've done this. Our motions are to recommend the budget favorably, or perhaps that's a Charles question. And our motions, how we send these out, Charles, is that similar to that? Okay.
Right, so you'll have a chance to make any recommendations, and then you'll, as a committee, recommend that that budget be presented to Senate Ways and Means, either as is or with the recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Megan. All right. Before we start, we do have a new member of our committee. If we'd recognize Senator Stephan, on the end, he is our newest member to our committee, just assigned to us last week. So you're not the newest one, Senator Schellenberger. Okay, just so we're fair to everyone here, I will have a report out from the analyst, and you'll see on your agenda, some of the folks are here with the agencies to testify, some are here to just answer questions for us. We'll have to move fast through here. We have like 7 minutes for each budget, and I'll keep time up here and give you a heads up when you're almost up, and we gain any minutes, we'll bank those to the end. So, all right. So first we have Kansas State Board of Healing Arts, and the overview by research Megan Leopold. Thank you again for coming to see us.
Thank you. All right, I am the KLRD analyst for the Kansas State Board of Healing Arts. The State Board of Healing Arts is responsible for the licensing and regulation of the medical, osteopathic, and chiropractic doctors. I'm going to skip forward to page 5 of the budget analysis that you have in front of you. The Board of Healing Arts is funded entirely through fee funds. There's no SGF in this budget. On page 5 at the top in figure 9, you'll see the legislative approved amount of $6.8 million. And again, that's all from the Board of Healing Arts Fee Fund. There were no changes made to that amount by the agency in their revised budget. There were some changes made within that amount. The agency increased their expenditures for salaries and wages, and that was to fund the new 6.0 FTE positions. The FTE positions that they've added include attorneys in the licensing and disciplinary departments and general counsel. Also within that, to make up for that increase in salaries and wages, there is an offset of a decrease in contractual expenditures. You can see that in fiscal year 23, the governor made no recommended changes to the budget. Turning ahead to page 7, you'll see the fiscal year 24 analysis for the agency. The agency requested $7.1 million, and this is an increase of $265,000 or 3.9%, and that's above the agency's request in fiscal year 23. In that, you'll see some contractual services adjustments. There is an increase of about $209,000 in contractual services, and that was largely due to an anticipated increase in staff travel with COVID regulations lightening up, and anticipated there will be more in-person meetings and conferences. There's also an increase or an adjustment to salaries and wages, a slight increase, and that was due to increased employer contributions for health insurance. And as in fiscal year 23, the governor did not recommend any changes to the agency's request for fiscal year 24. I'll move forward to page 8. On page 8, in figure 12, you can see that the agency requested $7.2 million, and that's, again, all special revenue funds. This is an increase of $160,000 above the agency's fiscal year 24 request. The increase is largely due to increases in contractual services, again, due to anticipated staff travel and board member travel. And as in the previous 2 years, the governor did not recommend any changes to the agency's request in fiscal year 25. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Megan. And I might tell the committee, Randy and I decided, so you had some extra time, we were able to get these budgets to you as fast as we could yesterday after 3 o'clock in the evening and first thing this morning if you have questions. And moving forward also the next 2 days, that do feel free to ask in advance, knowing that we have very limited time with these as well. So you'll have these where we haven't had them in the past to look at. So that was a question we had last year. And let's see, I believe, Senator Dahl, did you have a question? Or oh, sorry. And I forgot to mention that early on, that we anticipated we'd like to look these over quicker, because that was a question we had last year. We wish we had more time. And so we tried to put those out there for you. And Senator McGinn.
Just to be clear, so the governor did not recommend any changes, and so some of those where they have some contractual increases, they're going to take care of within the allocated dollars that they have.
Right, the amount, yeah, they did not have any changes from their approved request, and the governor did not recommend any changes.
Thank you.
Senator Reichman. And then, Megan, do we have Susan on WebEx with us?
Susan Giles, the director, is.
Okay, and we'll go to her next. So, Senator Reichman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quick, this is obviously fee funded, and could you give me an example of some of the fees that they pay and what they have on there? Thank you.
I can. If you turn forward to page 4, the second chart that you see on page 4 is a table of the licensure fees. And this lists out the various professions that they regulate and license, their current fee, and then also the statutory limit.
Thank you, Megan. Senator Thompson. And then we should probably hop to Susan that we have less than 2 minutes left.
Oh, I'm sorry, very
Thank you.
quickly. Talking about the financing, all other funds jumps from 8,000 to 35,000. What are those all other funds? That's on page 2, or page 3 on the top chart. Down toward the bottom, it's listed the budget summary by category of expenditure.
Oh, all other funds.
Yeah.
Those are other fee funds that the agency, often fee-funded agencies will have separate fee funds for legal fees or fingerprinting, things like that. So it's just another state fee fund.
Okay, all righty. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So let's move to Susan Giles, and she is the Executive Director of Kansas State Board of Healing Arts. Susan, are you with us on WebEx?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, thank you, Susan. We do hear you. Megan went over your budget, so is there anything you'd like to add very quickly?
Thank you and good morning, Madam Vice Chair. I am Susan Guile with the Board of Healing Arts. Megan did a wonderful job as well. The budget document that was prepared and provided to you all was also very thorough, and we concur with everything stated there. The only thing that I would like to add is that I know this has been a question in the past, is that we do have a rather large ending balance at the end of the fiscal year. I'm sorry if you all can hear all that dinging. And I want to address that because that is really sort of a falsely inflated ending balance, because we do, at the end of the year, May is about when our medical doctors renew their licenses, and they are our largest license base in number, and their fees are also one of the highest, as well as May being graduation season. That's when almost all license types submit their initial application. So we take in a lot of money right at the end of the fiscal year. And so that balance looks really high, but that really is what sustains us through the year. So I just wanted to address that because I know that's been a question from you all in the past. But otherwise, I would just stand for questions if you all have any, and I appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you, Susan. And we do have your written testimony as well in front of us. So thank you. And Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate the comment about the ending balance. However, I'm assuming that time in May is the same for all these fiscal years. So we're watching it jump from 3.2 million in FY 2020 to the recommendation that it might be as much as 7 million in 2025. So is there some other reason for that?
Yes. So part of that is number of licensees increasing. And then also during the pandemic, so part of what our fee fund does, we have something called a no limit fee fund, which is not actually a separate fund. It's part of our overall budget. And what that is used for is our litigation cases. So they often can be quite expensive if we have to pay expert witnesses, things like that. They can run into the tens of thousands, sometimes $100,000 or more. During the pandemic, those cases really stalled because obviously we couldn't find expert witnesses because they were working with patients and needed to do for the pandemic. So that's part of why that budget is a little higher right now. We are now sort of ramping those cases back up and should be seeing some of that money being spent down.
Thank you, Susan. Don't see any other questions. I'm ready for a motion if there is one available.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, Senator McGinn.
I'd make a motion to move forward the budget proposed by the Board of Healing Arts and send it on to the Ways and Means Committee.
So I have a motion. Is there a second? Second, Senator Francisco.
I would second. I'm assuming this is both for 23 and 24?
Yes, the entire budget, yes. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next, we are moving to Board of Nursing. Thank you, Carol. We're moving to the Board of Nursing, an overview by Megan Leopold again. And we also have Carol Moreland, Executive Administrator, Board of Healing, or Board of Nursing, in person to testify. So I believe we'll hold our questions until after Carol speaks as well. So you go right ahead, Megan. Thank you.
All right, you should have the Board of Nursing budget analysis in front of you. Like the Board of Healing Arts, the Board of Nursing is also an entirely fee-funded agency. There's no state general funds in their budget. The Board of Nursing regulates the practice of nursing. They maintain licensure of covered classes, they survey schools, and they conduct disciplinary actions as needed. I'm going to also skip forward to page 5. On page 5, you can see both the Board of Nursing fee fund, as with the Healing Arts, shows the ending balance, the revenue and expenditures. And then below that are the professions that are licensed by the agency, as well as the licensing fees. Turning to page 6, you can see the fiscal year 23 budget. This is a fiscal year 23, the agency had an increase of $159,000. That's 4.7%, and that's above the amount that was approved by the 2022 legislature. This is largely due to a supplemental increase for part of the agency's 3-year IT plan. This will fund licensing software upgrades and software to process Kansas Open Record Acts more efficiently. You also see a decrease from the criminal background fee fund. This is due to an anticipated decrease in the number of nurses that will be pursuing licensure, and therefore a fewer number of fingerprints needed, which is what that fee fund is generally used for. Number 4, down at the bottom, you can see that the governor did not recommend any changes to the agency's fiscal year 23 request. I'll move forward to page 8, fiscal year 24. The agency requested $4 million. This is an increase of $327.5 thousand, or 8.9%. This increase is again largely due to that 3-year IT plan. This is a transition to the My Licensure platform, a platform that will increase security measures, protect licensees' data more efficiently, and allow staff and public users to access more efficiently system reports and information. There's also some hardware included in that plan. And then, as you can see, with fiscal year 23, the governor did not recommend any changes to the agency's request in fiscal year 24. On the next page, page 5, you can see that the agency requested $3.9 million. Again, this is all from the Board of Nursing fee fund. This is a decrease of $59,000, and that decrease is largely due to the software and hardware upgrades that we saw in fiscal year 24. Those were one-time expenditures that are not anticipated to continue into the fiscal year 25 budget. And as with the previous years, you can see that the governor did not recommend any changes to the agency's request for fiscal year 25.
Thank you, Megan. Very nice. Could we have Carol Moreland come up? Carol, would you like to say a few words to us, and then we can ask Megan or you any questions?
Carol Moreland, Administrator for the Kansas Board of Nursing. The only thing I wanted to just kind of explain a little bit is when we were asking for the additional fees because of our licensure software upgrade, we haven't done, the platform that we have our licensure software on right now was like 2009. Okay, there's been a lot of changes. What we're finding is more and more of our licensees and our applicants are using their cell phone. Okay, the platform that we have right now doesn't work as well with their cell phone. So we're really needing to upgrade that. It will make them much happier. We get a lot of requests from them. We also get a lot of requests for data about our licensees. It's not the easiest for us to run the reports right now to get the data that perhaps you all ask for. So with this upgrade, that's another thing that it will do, is to give us the ability to generate our own reports very we can customize them and everything like that. And then, of course, security. We're always worried about security, so we want to, upgrade as much to that. So it's going to be in 2 phases, as Megan said. Phase 1 will be in fiscal year 23. That's why we asked for the additional money. And then fiscal year 24 has phase 2. And then hopefully it will be done then, and it will last us for a while. The other thing that's included in the increase in fiscal year 23 is some software for our Cora request processing. We're finding that we're getting many more requests for Cora. In fiscal year 22, we had 88 requests. So far in fiscal year 23, we've had 63. So we're going to top what we had in fiscal year 22. They're becoming much more complicated, much more involved, taking a lot more staff's time. So we want to go with this software that will help manage it better, help it process better throughout our agency, and make us more efficient on those core requests, because they do take a lot of our staff time. So that's pretty much what I have to say.
Thank you, Carol. You have a very nice packet that you've included here with your laying out how you're going to use your software enhancement. So this is very nice. Thank you. We can review this as well. Do we have any questions, committee? Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quickie, and I'm sure this is a big one. What are the nature of these core requests?
Oh. They're pretty much everything. We're seeing a lot more from attorneys that are perhaps representing nurses. And then we just recently had one that involved like over 700 emails that had to be retrieved, had to go through, pull out the sensitive information that we could not release. That took some time, and that's not just our agency, because we had to go with OITS to get those.
I'm sorry to believe it. Are these nurses who have been let go, and they COVID response type stuff? I'm just curious.
Most of them probably are from nurses that have been disciplined, and so there's been some action taken against them, whether it's their license is limited, whether it's revoked or something, and they choose to appeal that, okay. And so they get their own attorney.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question. How come the fee, and if it's a long answer, you can just email me, but the fees are so different between the APRNs and a medical technician?
The LMHTs?
Mental health technician, the fees. Well, I would think the advanced nurse practitioner would be higher than a technician.
Yeah, we've never raised the APRNs for a number of years. The LMHTs have been that for a number of years. And the thing with the LMHTs is we don't have very many of them. And so we're trying to strategize ways in which we can get more of those. And that may be one thing that the board needs to look at, is those fees for the LMHTs, and perhaps those need to be decreased some. But, they looked at the RN and the LPN probably in 2018 when we joined the compact and made changes to those, but they did not do the APRN at that point in time.
Well, thank you, Carol and Megan. Very nice, very thorough.
It is.
I don't see any questions. Would there be a motion to move this budget forward to the full committee? Senator Dahl makes that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Marcy, or Senator Francisco. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you, ladies. Next on our agenda is Board of Barbering, and we have our research analyst, Martin DeBure, going to do the next two, barbering and cosmetology. So welcome, Martin. And then we also have Cassiopeia Capps, Administrative Officer, Kansas Board of Barbering, with us. Is that correct? And how about you go ahead and do the budget, and we'll bring Cassiopeia up, and then we'll ask questions.
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you, Martin.
Madam Chair. And just so you know, the agency has indicated they really don't have anything to say, but they're here to answer any questions that you may have after my presentation. So Board of Barbering, they enforce the barbering statutes within the state. including overseeing schools licensing, the licensing of barbers and everything involved. Start on page 4 real quick. Similar to the previous 2 budgets, you'll have the fee funds up top as well as their licensure fees right below. Would like to note that if you look at the fee funds starting in FY24, the expenditures are climbing over their revenues. So that might be something we need to take a look at. All their licensure fees are currently at their statutory limit. So there's no movement there. So on the following page, on page 5, you'll have the FY23 analysis. For FY23, the agency is requesting $193,000 from their fee fund. And this is an increase of $9,000 and 1.3 FTE position decrease from their approved. That $9,000 is broken down into $8,000 for computer-based testing. The agency in the past has been able to give exams both computer-based as well as written. They are no longer allowed to give those written exams, so the cost of the computer-based testing has increased. So this is to help cover the costs for the vendor for those computer-based testing. There at the bottom of the paragraph, computer-based testing now costs approximately $76 per examination, and there's a statutory cap of $100 for that examination. So there is a minimal profit there for the revenue. At the bottom there, you'll see $1,000 is for gas and fuel. This is so that the inspector can go through throughout the state and conduct their inspections. And this is due to the rising cost of fuel statewide. On the following page is our all other adjustments. So here you have the decrease of the 1.3 FTE positions. What they did was they had a vacant position, they consolidated it with another position. So they only have 2 positions, technically 1.88 FTE positions. So that is the reason for the decrease there. And the governor concurs with the FY23 revised estimate. On the following page, on page 8, you'll see FY24. Here, the agency requests $197,000, all from the barbering fee fund. This is an increase of $4,551 above the 23 revised estimate. And this increase is just a continuation of what you saw in FY23 for the computer-based testing expenses and the fuel costs for the agency. At the bottom of the page, on page 8, you'll see the governor concurs with the agency's FY24 request. On the following page, excuse me, on page 9, the agency requests $202,000 from the barbering fee fund and expenditures and the 1.9 FTE positions for 2025. This is a $4,505 increase over the 24 request. And again, this is related to the same enhancements you saw in FY23, continuing from 24 and now into 25 for those computer-based testing expenditures as well as travel expenditures. And the governor concurs with the agency's request for 25. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Martin. Very thorough. And we have Cassiopeia with us for questions only, unless you'd like to say anything. So, and we do have a written testimony in our packet as well. Are there questions for Martin or Cassiopeia? Senator Schallenberger.
It's probably in here, and I'm just cursory review. I can't find how many barbers are licensed in Kansas.
Let's see. I believe. I believe from the data that I have, in FY 2022, there are approximately 1,403 licensed barbers, about 518 barber shops, and about 9 barber colleges. Now, that may have changed from the time I've received this information, but that is a rough estimate of those licenses.
Thank you.
Senator Fascido.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on page 5, relating to the testing there in the computer-based testing, if a individual does not pass that first test, are they allowed to take that test again? And if they are, do they have to pay that fee again? Thank you, Madam Chair.
I believe so, but that's probably a question.
Well, you're going to get to come forward anyway, Cassiopeia.
My name is Cassiopeia Capps. I am the administrative officer for the Kansas Board of Barbering, sorry. If an individual takes the computer-based test and they do happen to fail, they are allowed to take it again. They have to resubmit an application for examination just so we make sure all of their contact information is still accurate. And then they do end up paying that $100 fee because every time they take it, we do still have to pay the testing company how much that cost. And in regards to the fees, Martin did an excellent job, thank you very much, going over it. When the individual pays that $100 examination fee, that doesn't just cover our computer-based testing, that covers the practical test too, that the board has to go and give. So out of the $100, $76 is paid to the testing company, and that leaves us $24 to go toward the practical boards. And we estimate about $2,200 for every practical examination we give.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you for visiting with us. Would I have a motion to move this budget forward to the full committee? Senator Thompson?
Yeah, so moved to send it over to Ways and Means as presented.
Second, Senator Fasca-Doe. Discussion? Oh, yes, Senator Schallenbarger.
I've had a long-standing concern about the Board of Barbering, but I don't know how any agency with 1.9 employees can really do their job. And, I wonder why we need to license barbers. I would think if you get a bad haircut, you wouldn't go back. But I don't know. It just seems like overreach to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Martin, you're up again. This is Board of Cosmetology. You do our overview, and on WebEx for questions, we have David Yoakum, Chairman, Kansas Board of Cosmetology, and Aubrey Pryor, Kansas Board of Cosmetology. So thank you for everyone for joining us, and you go right ahead, Martin.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So the Board of Cosmetology can kind of be looked at as an umbrella agency. They not only cover cosmetologists, but also tattoo artists, tattooing, as well as tanning. So in that vein, if you would turn to page 5, you'll see the similar fee fund. This is a fee-funded agency as well. You'll have a total number of licensees there. So in FY 2022, they had approximately 34,000 licensees that this agency actually regulates. On the following page, on page 6, you will see a breakdown of all of their licensure fees. And I will not go through all of those. So on the following page, on page 7, we'll begin with the budget analysis. The agency was approved for $1.2 million. The revised estimate is $1.2 million. And 14 FTE positions, so this is the same amount as approved, so the agency made no adjustments, so the governor concurs with the agency's revised estimate. On page 9, you'll have the FY 2024 budget. Here, the agency requests $1.2 million, all from the cosmetology fee fund, and this is an increase of $44,000 and 1 FTE position above the 23 revised estimate. So that increase is due to them hiring their enhancement request to hire a part-time facility inspector to conduct routine annual inspections and licensing establishments, and that would be a total of $19,050 for the year. I would like to note that in FY 2022, only 31% of the licensed establishments did not receive their annual health and sanitation inspection due to lack of staffing. I have been told that they are also down 1 inspector position, so they have a vacancy or an inspector position. Number 2 there, they have a request for a part-time senior administrator assistant position. So this is also a 0.5 FTE position. So this request is just over $17,000. And this position would be in the agency's enforcement department. And this is to assist with their increasing caseload numbers for licensing and enforcement. The all other adjustment is our catch-all that has mostly employer contributions to group health insurance, and then that is partially offset with a decrease in their employee retirement contributions. The governor there at the bottom of the page does concur with the agency's FY24 request. On the following page, on page 10, we have the FY25 analysis. Here, the agency requests the $1.2 million, all from the fee fund, and expenditures and 15 FTE positions. This is 277 above their FY24 estimate, and this is due to the continuation of that FY24 enhancement request. So the part-time facility inspector, an increase of 267. So for the full year, that would be just over 19,000 for the full year for that position. And for their part-time senior administrative position, that is an increase of $283. So for the full year, that would be a $17,460 expenditure. The all other adjustments at the bottom is a $273 decrease due to the shift in their employer contributions to fringe benefits. And the governor does concur with the agency's FY25 request.
Thank you, Martin. Very well done. Did you have a question? Senator Fascido.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Relating to tattoo artists and the tattoo examination, so is it true that we don't actually have a tattoo institute, so those individuals seek that experience through an apprenticeship with another tattoo artist or shop?
So to the best of my knowledge, there is no tattooing institute, but I believe I can follow up with the agency and get some more details on that for you.
Okay, that'd be helpful. And then, Madam Chair, so this information here that you're sharing, where does nail technician fall into place?
To be honest, I don't know exactly where that position would fall into place, but I can follow up with the agency on that.
I'd appreciate it. Then also, Madam Chair, sir, if you could tell me if the nail technicians in a shop is required to post the price of each service they provide. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And actually,
Yes, Martin, go ahead.
Madam Chair, on page 6 for the nail techs, it looks like they are listed under the cosmetology profession practitioners. They're kind of halfway in the table there. You'll see the licensure for a nail technician manicurist license, as well as their nail technician renewal license. So they fall under the umbrella of the cosmetology profession licenses.
Madam Chair,
Senator Fascido.
if you could email me, share with me, are they required to post the price of the services? Thank you.
Senator Dahl, or Senator Stephan, and then Senator Dahl.
Thank you. Real quick, the FTE positions, how many of them are unfilled and for how long?
I don't have the current number on those, but I can follow up with you. The agency might be able to address that.
Senator Dahl.
Well, the budget analysis actually just discusses expenditures. So the actual revenues, we don't really discuss in these analysis. But are you asking for what is their total revenue? I can talk to what their anticipated revenue is. That's on page 5 on their fee fund table there. In the kind of dark green, those columns are what their revenue anticipation is. So you'll have FY 20, 21, 22, and then 23. And these are based off the governor's recommendation. So in 23, they're anticipating 1.1 million in revenue. In 24, they're anticipating the 1.1 as well in 25. And then you'll see that their expenditures, which are in the red color, are at 1.2, 1.2, and 1.2. So, yeah, so all of the professions that are listed there on their licensure, they are statutorily required to be licensed. And that's where the agency gets their fees from, yes.
I don't see any other questions. Are there questions? Senator Stephan, did you have a question? Did the follow up?
Thank you. That was great. You read my mind beautifully. You know, it looks like we're up against statutory limit on most of those fees, and it looks like on that, I think it was page 10, that we're going to get into expenditures over our collections pretty soon. One might entertain the idea of an inflationary index on that sort of thing.
So perhaps, Martin, did you have comment? And then perhaps that's something they should be considering during their meetings over the summer to propose to bring back to us next year. So I noticed that too at the top of their caps. So any other questions, committee? All right. Would I have a motion to move this budget forward to the full committee? Senator McGinn makes this motion. And do I have a second? And so I'll have a first, a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Oh, would they like to speak? Are there any questions for the folks online? I had them down for questions, if we had questions for them. No? All right. And thank you for joining us online.
Thank you, committee. I apologize that I couldn't be there in person.
Did you have any comments?
Would you have comments? I have you down for questions only, but you're welcome to speak to us if there's anything you'd like to add.
Yeah, and I apologize I couldn't be there in person. We have a new grandbaby, and I have one that's in medical care, so we're staying close to the hospital. But thank you, committee, for your work. I am aware of that we're at our statutory limit on those, so we are working on that. So thank you.
So good point, Senator Steffen. And and thank you for joining us under your circumstances too. It's very nice, and sure didn't mean to overlook you, but I'm glad you hopped in there for us.
No,
so
thank you.
All right.
I know that it's an essence of time, and you guys are doing a speedy job. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, back to the motion. Senator McGinn makes the motion, and I have Senator Francisco second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. So now we're moving on to the Kansas Board of Hearing Aid Examiners, and we have our overview by Amanda Prosser. Welcome to the committee, Amanda, and we also have Mark Shaver, Executive Officer, Kansas Board of Examiners, in fitting and dispensing of hearing instruments on WebEx, but no testimony, as I understand.
Correct.
So thank you very much. Go right ahead, Amanda.
Sure. I am Amanda Prosser, I'm fiscal analyst with KLRD, and I'm here to present Kansas Board of Examiners on fitting and dispensing of hearing instruments. As my colleagues have all guided you through the document in front of you, I won't go reading line by line for that. The board of this agency is composed of 5 members. 3 of them are licensed dispensers and 2 are representatives. From the general public, the board is funded entirely from special revenue funds, specifically the licensing receipts deposited into the Hearing Instrument Board Fee Fund, as described, I believe, on page 4. But if you want to flip kind of backwards to page 3, figure 5, the committee can see that for fiscal year 2023, the board requested revised expenditures totaling $34,010. This is the same amount as the amount approved by last year's legislature. The revised request includes an increase in salaries corresponding to an equal decrease in contractual services of $1,433. There are no regular FTE positions in this agency. All employees are part-time and eligible for benefits. Both in fiscal year 2024 and 2025, the board requests a budget of expenditures totaling $37,695 for each fiscal year, which is 10.8% above the approved budget for 2023. The increase is primarily attributable to an increase in contractual services for computer software maintenance and service. And the governor concurs both 2023, 24, and 2025. At this time, I can stand for questions. I know Mark Shaver's on the line, and he'd be happy to answer any agency specifics.
Let's go ahead and move to Mark, and then we'll have our questions for both of you, if that's all right with the committee. So Mark, welcome to our committee.
Thank you for having me, Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee might have.
All right. Do we have any questions for either of the conferees? Oh, Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you. So we have an agency here that collects a fee, have no full-time employees. So what are they spending their money on? Board meetings?
Well, Senator, we do have a half-time employee, and that would be myself. We also have, we also pay to maintain a website, and we pay our examiners in order to administer the practical exam for licensees. We have to reimburse mileage for those as well. Just kind of the bare minimum, I think, as far as operating the agency.
Yeah, it's bare minimum, you're right. And you can buy hearing aids now online and on the internet, you know, from Amazon. I know that they advertise I'm sure you don't get the same product, but I'm back to where I was a while ago. Are we perpetuating something here that need not exist?
I'm sorry, was there a question, Senator?
So Senator McGinn.
I will say there is a great deal of difference in hearing aids, and someone who had to help a family member on that. And so I'm glad that we do have somebody that oversees that.
Yes, Senator Schellenberger.
My question is, what are we overseeing? I mean, how many people do you regulate? It's probably in here.
Sure. Senator, we have approximately 330 permanent licensees, around 10 to 12 temporary licensees at this time. I might point out that licensing hearing aid dispensers is not unusual for Kansas. Every state in the country licenses hearing aid dispensers. If we did not, it would likely cause problems both with consumers being hurt financially or potentially health-wise, and it would also create dilemmas for billing to CMS, Medicare, Medicaid, because you have to be licensed in order to bill those insurances.
Any other questions, committee? Senator Francisco.
This is probably for staff, but if there is a half-time position, why does it show up as 0?
Sure. Our records show that it is 0. I'm happy to follow up with that to see. I will double check.
Could you follow up with that and put it in the report if
Absolutely.
Indeed it should be there? Thank you.
Mr. Shaver, did you have a comment on that as well?
Regarding the 0.5 FTEs versus 0. My only comment is that this exact question has come up in the past, and when it was brought to my attention, I also thought it was peculiar, but I was told it was, I guess, just a peculiarity of the way it was entered in the system, but I think it was accurate.
So, thank you. All right, I don't see any other questions. Would I have a motion to pass the budget?
I make a motion to pass the Board of Hearing Aid Examiners as presented to the Ways and Means Committee.
Senator McGinn makes a motion. Senator Francisco seconds. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We are on our last budget. And this is Kansas Board of Pharmacy, and we'll have an overview by Sharday Kane. And we also have Alexandria Blasey, Executive Secretary, Kansas Board of Pharmacy, with us in the room too. So you go ahead, Sharday.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sharday Kane. This is my 3rd legislative session with Legislative Research. For the Board of Pharmacy, they're responsible for the enforcement of the Pharmacy Act and the Controlled Substances Act. They have a mission to ensure all persons and entities conducting business relating to the practice of pharmacy in Kansas are properly licensed and registered to protect public health, safety, and welfare, and to promote an understanding of pharmacy-related practices. As a note, they have a 7-member board that is appointed by the governor with over 4-year terms and is composed of 6 licensed pharmacists and 1 member of the public. I'm going to move forward. There's a overview on page 1 through 4, including a look at their pharmacy fee fund. But on page 6, the fiscal year 2023 analysis outlines that they do have a decrease of about $123,000 in salaries and wages due to expected expenditures not being necessary or considered at this point, as well as contractual services increase of $100,000. And you'll see that contractual services, they have quite a few softwares that they use within the Board of Pharmacy. The governor does concur with the agency's request for fiscal year 2023. The fiscal year 2024 analysis can be found on page 8. For fiscal year 2024, they have a increase of about $124,000 for computer software maintenance, as well as $18,000 for group health insurance. Additionally, number 3 outlines about $21,000 for salaries and wages and $11,000 for out-of-state travel expenses. The governor concurs with the fiscal year 2024 analysis as well. And on page 9, the fiscal year 2025 analysis outlines a decrease of about $300,000 for computer software maintenance, about $131,000 decrease for salaries and wages and fringe benefits, and then about $10,000 for all other adjustments. The governor does recommend the agency's fiscal year 2025 request. And page 10 and 11 outline their program and their public performance-based budgeting measures, in case you want to look at that on page 11. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to Alexandria, if she'd like to testify, and then we'll have our questions for both of you, and we'll be butting up against 10:30 in 4 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be very brief. I'm Alexandra Blasey, the Executive Director for the Kansas State Board of Pharmacy. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. As you know from previous years, we administer our regulatory program for pharmacists, but in addition to that, we have the prescription drug monitoring program known as ks. So we are supporting both of those programs. I just want to briefly mention that we're very proud of our performance measures this year. We've worked very hard to increase those from some COVID setbacks from moving our staff to other projects. In addition, we would like to highlight that I did include in your packet our ks annual report, so you have that to look at your convenience. But with regard to ks, I'm very pleased to report that funding is very stable at this point in time, which I think has been a long time. We've been trying to work toward this. In my testimony on the last page there, you're going to see a little chart. And one thing I would like to mention is in fiscal years 24 and 25, that second line, pharmacy fee fund, jumps up pretty substantially. That is because at this time, our federal grants are going to end this fiscal or next fiscal year. However, we are actually about to be in the application process with our partners at KDHE for a new CDC grant, and we're very hopeful that Kansas will be a recipient. If that is the case, that would reduce our fee fund burden by approximately $800,000 for those 2 years. So while the cash balance is looking dreadfully painful right now, we do anticipate that that would be corrected moving forward. And if that were the case, no fee increases would be anticipated. Lastly, I would just like to mention that the board is very supportive of the governor's recommendation for the 5% salary increase for state employees. We have a stellar group that I've highlighted in my testimony here working at the Board of Pharmacy, and I'm privileged to be among that group of individuals and see their teamwork and the work they're doing for customers and patients in the state of Kansas. So I would very much like to see them recognized for that work and have that cost of living adjustment based on some of the recent changes in daily cost of living. And with that, I will happily stand for questions.
You did a very nice job in a very short amount of time. So thank you for joining us. Do we have questions for Sharday or Alexandria? Senator McGinn.
So where is that? Did you say $800,000 grant? Is that listed in here?
It is not. It's on page 4 of my testimony, that last page there, just in that paragraph above. And so what you're seeing is a substantial increase for fiscal years 24 and 25, and we would be planning to obtain grant funds in lieu of those state dollars. Well, the application is supposed to come up next month, and the award will be in the fall of this year. So we should have ample preparation time.
Any other questions for Sade or Alexandria? I don't see any. Thank you for joining us. Very nice job. So I would be looking for a motion to pass this budget out as presented. Senator Schellenberger makes the motion, and in the second, Senator Dahl seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. All right, motion passes. Thank you, committee. We finished 2 minutes ahead of schedule. And remember, Monday, February 6th is our next meeting, and we'll have 6 more budgets. Thank you all. We're adjourned.